Dr. Akiva Gamliel, Belk, Dean of Jewish Studies at the Noach Torah Institute, LLC. Welcome to Bereisheit Limood text. That's a study of Genesis chapter 9. Now, our textbook is Gematria and Mysticism in Genesis. But in a few days, like 2 weeks, we're going to be concluding this course, and we'll be moving to a new course, and that will be Gematria and Mysticism in Genesis, Book 2. So I encourage each of you to order your copy right now so you'll have it when we begin the new class. Dear ones, the Torah teaches us that from the time of creation until the year 1657 from creation, that all humanity were vegetarians, that animals were vegetarians, okay? That means that as humans, we did not consume meat, poultry, fish. Our diet consisted of nuts and seeds. It consisted of grains and grass and roots. And our life consisted of taking care of animals, being very good to animals, which is one of the mitzvahs of our Torah, to be good to animals. It's one of the 7 laws, be good to animals. And that as a result, we were able to receive milk and cream and make butter and cheese, and we were able to enjoy the produce from eggs. So these were the items that all human beings ate and enjoyed, and the items that all animals, and birds, and fish, and creepy things enjoyed in life up until 1657 from creation. Now, after the Noah flood, after the world was destroyed, this all changed. And we're in chapter 9 of Genesis. And we recognize that as we move backwards just a little bit and go into chapter 8, we realize that as Noah came off of the Teva, off of the ark, and as his wife and his sons and his daughter-in-laws came off of the ark, that the Torah uses the same language as when they went on the ark. And so it causes us to scratch our head a little bit and to ponder. Why does the Torah repeat itself? Why doesn't it just say they just came off of the ark? And our sages say the reason that the Torah uses the specificity in this case is to show us that there was no cohabitating on the Teva, that it was prohibited. And so that's why the Torah teaches us these individuals went on and the same individuals came off, but they're named specifically. Okay? So we recognize that. However, when they came off of the Teva, we begin this week's study with God blessing Noah and his wife and his sons and his daughter-in-laws and saying, be fruitful, multiply, replenish the earth. So we have a second reason there why we recognize God saying that. But then God says it again in verse 7. Be fruitful, multiply, and replenish the earth. So we recognize that God was making it very clear that he wanted the individuals who were on the ark to cohabitate again and to replenish the earth and to fill it with human beings, and of course those that were animals, and the birds, and so on and so forth. Now, we recognize that in Genesis chapter 7, when God told Noach to come onto the ark, that God said that you should take pairs of 7 male and female of the clean animals, and that you should just take one male and one female of the unclean animals. It's very interesting because it's giving us a hint of what about is to occur, what about is to happen. So all the clean animals, the kosher animals, are brought onto the teva. The birds, the animals, all the kosher ones, they are the clean ones. And so we recognize them just individual pairs of the non-clean animals, of the non-kosher animals. So now the flood is over, and God has said, hey, get off the ark, come on off the ark. And so Noach and all his family and his children, the 3 sons and 3 daughter-in-laws, came off of the ark. But now there's 7 pairs of kosher animals, but there's only one of the non-kosher. So it's clear that if Noach and his wife or his sons and daughters selected any of the animals that were not kosher, that would perhaps end the species. And God was trying to preserve the species. That was the reason they were brought onto the teva. And so we recognize that humankind were vegetarians. Being vegetarian is basically, you can be pretty much vegetarian and be kosher for the most part. Okay, there are some exceptions, but it's pretty much a kosher life. And so then we get off the teva, and now the Lord God is letting us know that we can have the enjoyment of eating animals. Now, keep in mind what that's like. Before the flood, we had beautiful harmony with animals. But now, after we have the opportunity to eat animals, that harmony is not going to stand. It's not going to remain. And so the Creator tells us in Genesis chapter 9 that He has made all the animals to be afraid, to fear us, and that He's brought all the animals under our authority. And God has also said that if an animal were to shed a human's blood, that He would hold that animal accountable. And of course, if a man were to do that, God would also hold him accountable, or a woman. So we recognize this transition period, and it's important to realize how we used to be vegetarians, and we used to live for hundreds of years, and now we're not vegetarians, and we eat meat, and we don't live for a really long span of time. The concept of not eating meat, of being a vegetarian, indicates a greater degree of spirituality, because we're eating natural things grown from Adama, from the earth, and we're receiving from the animals natural things, eggs and milk and cream and cheese. And so our lives should have been pure, but yet we find out the people on the other side of the flood very sinful. It's really amazing. They had this beautiful opportunity to have the highest realms of spirituality, but yet they took it the wrong direction. God help us. So the Lord God warns us not to consume blood. Blood causes us to be hazy and unclear, and not to be alert spiritually and mentally. And so we're really cautioned to be careful not to consume blood. So the world that was and the world that is, they've changed. Now we're in a world where we have the opportunity to consume animals. But yet, the only animals that we consume are the kosher animals, because they were in sets of 7. You immediately get off the ark. Well, what am I going to have? Well, I can't have these because there's only 2 of them, a male and a female. But there's 7 of these lambs. So we recognize that God's intent was for human beings to eat kosher.